hello, who is it? And we said, oh, hi, we're his, not gonna say his name, friends from downstairs. And she was like, no, thank you. She kind of has like a transatlantic accent. No, thank you. And we said, oh, okay. And she goes, you should never knock on a stranger's door. And it was literally like she was reprimanding us. So in that moment, I knew she kind of knew who we were. When I had my son, I wanted to obviously be able to give him answers and myself answers. And also just having a baby and knowing that someone did that for me and gave me away, it's just so tremendous. And so then I began pursuing answers. You are a spitting image of your birth mother. And I'm like, what? I was like, where'd you see me? She's like, oh, you're on your mom's Facebook. And I'm like, what dorky picture did this woman see of me?
Right.
She's like, no, but you're a spitting image. And that, is just a wild. And of course, I immediately ask, oh, do you have pictures of her? And she's like, I have to check. She didn't. I was like, oh my God, this is torture.
Yeah.
People who find genetic family, it doesn't mean it's gonna mean love. It's just not like that, whether it be 23andMe or a biological mother or father that doesn't want anything to do with you. I think just because you are someone's blood doesn't mean it's a different iteration of family.
Welcome to Identified, where we explore, challenge, and redefine the traditional concepts of family and identity. In this episode, I'm joined by writer Casey Kahn.
23andMe and Ancestry just changed the game so much.
I know.
The amount of people with whom I've spoken out, just sitting while my son plays soccer and casually drop this story. They're like, I have a family secret from 23andMe. There's no more secret. There are no secrets.
And people who thought they were safe 20 or 30 years ago.
And I can talk about this, but it's interesting because I have a similar situation where I found these people on 23andMe.
How old were you when you did 23andMe?
So I did it when I was 32 about,
Okay.
so my son was probably 2. So I did that prior to even going to actively look for my birth mom. Then I found siblings in 2020. So this was 3 years prior.
Okay, and you knew you'd always known you were adopted.
So yes, so I was adopted at 2 days old. My dad's a school psychologist. He's very even, and my mom was a homemaker, always around, but they were very measured, they did everything by the book to make sure that it was as normalized as possible. When I was about 3, probably, I started telling people I'm a doctor because I was just repeating that I'm adopted. I had no concept of what it meant.
Sounds like it, phonetics, yeah.
Yeah, and I always envision it as they picked me out. It was always regarded as a really positive thing that, someone couldn't take care of me and, they picked me out and I was treated, I was an only child, kind of the golden child of my family. My grandparents regarded me that way, super tight knit. But I did always wonder, of course, as you do, because I look different than my family, not at first glance. I think, everyone's white. So it's not I have friends who are Korean adopted by a white family. So I don't have that. That's a hurdle that I don't have. But at the same time, I don't look like them. The things that are natural for me are different from them. And just beyond that, I'm just a naturally curious person. So I was always wondering. And then did 23andMe. That was kind of a first step. But it wasn't until my mom told me my birth mom's name and
so
age.
She knew.
Yeah, she knew name and age, and that's it.
Okay.
She actually met her. So I was adopted at 2 days old, private adoption. Also a whole other side topic. It's a really sketchy thing, but at the time my mom didn't know it was sketchy, but it's completely exploitative for birth mothers. Fortunately, my birth mother was not exploited. She just took the money and was see ya. But I think there's a lot of coercion. If a birth mom's having second doubts nowadays, it's not good. But I was adopted through a lawyer, so I was picked up almost immediately, which is part of the reason why I never regarded it as a big deal. But then I had my first child and I realized what a big deal it is in so many ways. And I also wanted answers for him. And I wanted to feel like a complete, the reality is I have two sets of parents. You know, I always felt like I fell from the sky. And I think people picked up on that, like in college, like, you know, you're going out, you're living in New York City, you're partying, and people be like, where are you from again? I thought you were from California. I thought like people couldn't place me.
Huh. And they could maybe feel that you couldn't totally place yourself.
Like I just like was like something that like emerged from, like I felt like that. And then people would say things, I'm like, are they picking up on the way I feel?
Right.
So when I had my son, I wanted to obviously be able to give him answers and myself answers. And also just having a baby and knowing that someone did that for me and gave me away. It's just so tremendous. And so then I began pursuing answers. And what you said about looking at your father, you know, it's funny because I first saw myself in my son. Like he came out and he looked so much like me. And so it was interesting because I was so close. I am so close to my parents, but I just never even thought of that part of family. I never like understood. That was just not an experience I had. Like looking at someone and being like, oh, that makes sense because they're like seeing mannerisms or facial expressions or just anything, like a walk. My brothers, I found, we all have like stinky feet. Like my son has like stinky feet. My daughter has stinky feet. Like just sit like real, you know,
right.
I don't need
DNA things.
Just like
right?
certain DNA things. I never had that experience, but my parents, I think, were so loving that I never necessarily knew that was missing.
Right, exactly. You don't know that you could have that until it happens, and then you're like, oh, this is what people talk about.
Exactly, it just was. And I was really almost defensive. Like I remember being at a extended family event and someone toasted like blood is thicker than water. Like I literally think everyone forgot I was adopted. Like that's how close.
Oh, wow.
And I could see my mom kind of like prickled and I was kind of like, okay. And I know they forgot, but I wanted to be like, no, it's, you know, like almost like a protectiveness around that concept. So
when you did 23andMe, at that point, did you know that you had other biological siblings?
Nope. I didn't,
Okay,
and they weren't on there. So I didn't find them there.
Okay.
When I first did 23andMe, it was really around the curiosity of ethnicity. I mean, I looked in all my Irish friends would be like, you're clearly Irish. Eastern European friends would be like, I feel like you look a little Slavic.
Everyone wants you to belong.
German, Scandinavian. I'm like, okay, good. I just look like a typical American. Like I didn't really see anything. So turns out I'm like Irish, Polish, German, nothing too exciting. Right. But for me, it was something. It's, you know, not having known my ancestry. And then shortly after that, my mother and I were talking and I was expressing different anxieties I was having in life. I had given birth to my son. He was 2. I was working a lot. I felt so close to him and like motherhood came really naturally, but I was really, really anxious around certain things, including being separated from him and working. And I had just begun therapy and was kind of musing if I should go on medication. She was like, have you been wondering about your biological mother? And she told me her name for the first time and that she was 39 when she gave birth to me.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, what? I was completely taken aback. And she said that, yeah, like kind of matter of fact, like, yeah, why? What'd you expect? I'm like a teenager.
Yeah, right.
You know? So from there, I did some Googling and I found her name in obituaries, namely for my biological grandmother. And I read my biological grandmother's obituary and it was really surreal. It was like reading about myself or who I want to be. Like, and even the comments, you know, on online obituaries now, people can comment. It's like, she's a ray of sunshine. You know, she just sounded like a quirky, artistic, just really like a very specific type of person. And
so you felt connected to her through this obituary.
And she wintered. It was also so surreal.
Great verb,
wintered. I don't summer or winter anywhere, to be clear, except like for in the home I live in. But she wintered in a place in Mexico, San Miguel de Allende, where I'd just been for work 3 times. Oh, wow. And that's like highly specific. It's not like saying, you know, Acapulco or Cancun, something like that's widely known. So that was surreal, but I still let it lay. And I noticed names in the obituary and I didn't know who they were. Fast forward 2 years later, pandemic's imminent. I'm really having anxiety still, contemplating medication. My mom's like, why don't you message your biological uncle my biological uncle had passed and his widow's name was in the obituary. And she was kind of like the only one standing besides my birth mom. And I should add that I tried Googling my birth mother and there was really no trace of her, and I tried calling her, but it was like disconnected numbers. And tried calling her to see if I could I didn't know what I would say.
Yeah, I was going to say, what would you have said if she said hello?
I don't know, but I wanted to hear the voice, almost like a phony phone call, right?
Wrong number, sorry.
But I got the sense she wasn't on the grid, I just felt it. And so my mom said, why don't you message your biological uncle's widow from my Facebook account? Because at the time, I don't really have Facebook. And so I did, and then cut to 2 months later, the pandemic had started. I'd moved into my parents' house. I was not doing great mentally. I'd just gone on anxiety medication for the first time. I was my body, I felt like I had an anvil in my head, and I was sweating a lot. And I was with my toddler son and my husband. My parents, it was my childhood home. So it's a lovely home, but it's kind of tight quarters. And we were living in my childhood bedroom. It was the same wallpaper. It's still the same rug.
Oh, how interesting while all this is happening to be there.
And I was with my parents and just trying to maintain some semblance of sanity in the pandemic. And the biological uncles, we'll just call her my aunt. She wrote me back. We'll call my birth mom she. I don't want to identify her.
Okay.
She's indeed my sister-in-law. She is alive. She lives on her own. The last time I went to go see her, she told me to go away and shut the door. So I was definitely a red flag. And then she told me I have 2 older siblings. And we were all given away for adoption to different families. So I'm an only child and I find this out and I my whole world exploded.
This is on a Facebook message? That's how you got this news?
I gave her my email. So it was in an email.
You're reading it.
Yes.
Okay.
And we arranged to have a call. And I get on the phone with her. And she's like, you are a spitting image of your birth mother. And I'm like, what? I was like, where'd you see me? She's like, oh, you're on your mom's Facebook. And I'm like, what dorky picture did this woman see of me?
Right.
She's like, no, but you're a spitting image. And that, is just a wild. And of course, I immediately ask, oh, do you have pictures of her? And she's like, oh, I have to check. She didn't. I was like, oh my God, this is torture.
Yeah.
She knows my oldest brother, that he had come forward. He found my biological grandma right before she died, and they developed a relationship. And she's like, he's a lovely man. He's married with 2 children. And so I'm so excited, over the moon. And then she goes on to tell me that, my birth mother suffers from paranoid schizophrenia and refuses medication. So she had gotten pregnant 3 times, gave us all away in different circumstances, different states of emergency, if you will. It was just a lot of emotions at once, obviously. Thank God I was with my mom and dad at their house, because if I were in Brooklyn where I live and my mom were in the suburbs, she's like, I couldn't handle getting a second hand. She really lived it with me.
Right.
And I think for me, I would have carried some guilt. Yeah, I guess guilt, even though she didn't make me feel guilty, there's a degree of guilt when you're adopted. I wouldn't want to betray her by searching without her. And so I didn't have to worry about that, because she and my dad were both so supportive and equally as fascinated. And it was we were living in a movie, but no one was paying us to be traumatized. You know what I mean? It was just I can't believe this is happening. So I speak to my aunt. She says she's going to introduce me to my brother. So I'm waiting to hear from my aunt, and days go by. And nothing. And I'm trying to follow a protocol and be polite. That's my employee in me.
Well, and you don't want, I've been in sort of similar situation. You don't want to push too hard for fear of them recoiling and being like, you know what, never mind. I don't want to be in touch. I don't want to help you anymore.
Yeah, you feel you're encroaching on these people's lives.
You want to be careful and
Not to mention you feel I hate the illegitimate.
Yeah. Right.
Bastard child, knock, knock,
Do you want money? All of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and she made a point, this aunt, of saying, which is true, but not entirely true. They're very middle class, but downplaying whatever. Oh, yeah,
right.
There's not real money.
If you're here for money, you've come to the wrong place.
And I wasn't, and I would later learn from my brother that he felt that way, that he was so nervous about them perceiving.
Of course.
Because he showed up as my grandma was dying, which was just the circumstance, and he was like, oh God, these people think, he's like, all I really want is old photos, which he ended up getting.
Amazing.
So I waited 5 days suffering, thinking my brother doesn't want to meet me, waiting for the introduction. And finally, I checked in. My mom and my husband were both like, you are being insane. This is your life. First of all, they found him on Facebook. They're like, he looks just like you and he's such a sweetie pie. Please go message this man. I checked in. She connected us and it was just an instant bond. And I think a lot of it has to do the ease with which we had with each other. I think because we were both adopted, we were both abandoned by the same woman. I think it put us on an even playing field where it was like we signed on to be brother and sister.
Right.
Whereas like I talk to a lot of people who found have siblings on 23andMe and they do not have that experience.
Yeah,
like,
that was my experience. Yeah.
I'm sure you, yeah.
Yeah. That's another podcast. Right?
Yeah.
What's the age difference?
My brother is 5 years older than me.
Okay.
And then a year and a half later, we had this missing sibling we knew about.
So he wasn't in touch with
He
the other
was not in
sibling
touch
either.
yet.
Okay.
So he hadn't yet gone looking. So at first we were like, okay, we're getting to know each other. We're still making sense of everything that's just transpired.
And this is the pandemic. This is not in person yet. This is all...
Yeah, well, we did break rules and we met in between and had him come. We were the most careful, masked, and we like just had him come to my mom's house.
Amazing.
My mom.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, I actually put it on Instagram. And at the time, I mean, I was kind of on another planet. But at the time, people were like, all right, you're the only one who gets a pass because you have a new brother.
Yeah.
But it was a wild, and then I was pregnant. My husband and I were having a daughter. And I still was I was so neurotic. Like I barely left the house except to meet my sister-in-law and to meet my niece and nephew. And we would tend to meet like in the countryside. So for some reason, I assumed that there being open air and grass, that it was okay.
But it's safe.
But it was a very surreal time.
None of us knew what we were doing then.
It was a very surreal time, exactly. We were all just making it up. A year and a half later, all I knew about the middle sibling is that they were born on Cape Cod. And
so the one you know is the oldest. And the middle one is the one you're looking for still.
Yes.
Okay.
I gave birth to my daughter. She's 6 months old. And I'm at my parents' house. We went out to the beach. I grew up in like a suburb with a nearby beach. And then I went back to their house and my mom's like, why don't you? She's always encouraging me. She's like, I feel like you should pursue it. I don't remember who said it first. Nonetheless, I Googled Massachusetts private investigators. And the first guy I get on the phone with, he's like, I'm an adoptee too, kid. Like central casting.
Oh man, the movie. Who's gonna play that guy? This is getting good.
But the way I'm so funny, right? But the way he spoke, like I was like, I didn't know I'm being graded on a curve in life. He was like, most of us don't make it out. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, all the adoptees I know, my brothers, my sisters are. He's basically saying like delinquents or mental. I'm like, okay, I know that happens, but I know I grew up with so many people who were adopted just coincidentally. But the way he spoke of it, I was like, wow, I guess I feel great about myself, but I'm also like sick to my stomach.
Right.
He connected me to a woman at the Department of Children and Families. Later in the day, she calls me on the phone. She like had my brother's file in front of her.
Whoa.
She's like, July 30th, 1985, confirmed it was a boy. I didn't know if it was a boy or a girl because like no one seemed to remember. I don't know. So weird. He's only 16 months older than me. So I had to fill out paperwork and, write this letter basically saying, I hope you want to meet me. And I was very careful to include details about myself that were like so much the essence of who I am.
Hoping for him to connect when he read it.
Right, like what I'm good at, what I care about.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he read that letter and was like shaking. He's like, it's like me exactly. So then we all three got on a Zoom that night. It was August 2021. And it was like, we all talk every day since, unless someone's like, one of my brothers is like totally out of pocket on a trip right now, but we talk every day.
Wow. What was that Zoom like? Were you just staring at each other?
So it's funny. My new brother, his wife, she's cool. She's like, obviously was protective, like very pretty woman, but she's in the background, like looking. Like I know she was also like crying.
Yeah, of course.
So happy for him, but also like I loved how she was just in the background, like monitoring the situation. Also probably listening because I've learned having brothers now that they don't remember anything. So I'm always going to my sisters-in-law to be like, can we please like get the details right? Can I fact check the situation? Because they're boys. But yeah, it was just, I think he was steamrolled because we started talking a lot about our birth mom, which is not a happy situation. My oldest brother was kind of like, he was like the Grim Reaper, like sharing all the like super traumatic stuff about the family. And I was trying to be like, but it's great, you know?
Right.
Before she succumbed to mental illness, she was this like vibrant, amazing person and like went to these great schools. And I was trying to like make it sound better.
Glass half full.
Yeah, but even though it's like a terrible, you know, it's just not the best situation. I think, again, because we all were adopted and we're half siblings, so we have three different fathers. We confirmed when I got my brothers to do these DNA tests, which is wild.
Yeah.
So I think that's why, although this new brother, we met him in August 2021, I encouraged him to go on these DNA testing sites. And I think it was like within 6 months, I'm not entirely, definitely within a year, he found his birth father's identity. He's the only one of the three of us who figured that out.
Okay.
I thought I did, but it was a false. He has two brothers.
Oh, it just keeps going.
Who were raised by their two parents, but they like were so welcoming because evidently both parents had affairs. Oh. And through the mother, they found a sister who had been given up for adoption. So they were kind of like, when my brother came around, they were like, hey buddy, like, you know, come on in. And, you know, this particular brother looks so much like me, but also so much like them. And it's really cute to see. So he has like 4 new siblings.
Wow.
That I kind of like set that off. And I'm like, oh geez, like his poor, like, I'm like, I hope his wife isn't too mad at me for this. You know, it's just like a lot of new people.
Yeah.
Not to mention his parents and like the sister with whom he grew up. It's a lot for everyone, but it is a beautiful thing because we have all this family now and my son has 3 new cousins.
Yeah. And so you have these 2 brothers who you obviously feel very connected to.
Yes.
But there's still a quest to find your mother.
Yeah, you know, she kind of became, and I'm not in this headspace anymore, but at the time, like when I first learned about her, she was like this, I mean, I've never been that obsessed with a celebrity, but it's like someone who's obsessed with, I mean, I have been obsessed with like rock stars, right? A musician or a rock star or celebrity, and you're dying to know everything about them. If you study, like read a biography, study their wiki page, or you're dying to see them in person. Like,
and especially when you have a connection to them, even the simplest thing, like, whoa, they like peanut butter, so do I.
Exactly.
We must be related.
Exactly. So one thing I should add, so when my brother, the first one I found, first met our late biological grandmother, he's a smart one. He asked her to record their conversation.
Oh, great.
So then I got the recording. It's 3 hours long. My mom, my dad, and my husband and I call it the podcast because we would just sit there like writing things down.
This is your grandmother.
Oh,
your maternal grandmother.
She's like, this is the life. This is the family. Her family, all about my birth mom, who she was before her illness, her different boyfriends. I mean, just everything, who she is now. So it's like the source.
Does she sound like you to you?
Yes. So we were dying to meet her. I'm gathering all this information on her, whatever I can find. And I wanted to be respectful because she does have paranoid schizophrenia and suffer, you know, she has psychosis and she hears things. Her hallucinations are, that's the word I was looking for, auditory hallucinations. Right. And I knew she was independent from the people with whom we spoke. So she lives alone. She's not in like any assisted facility. And she's not on medication. She refuses medication. I knew that she was receiving money from my grandma before she died, like set it up with the bank. So she has like a roof over her head. And they were saying she's very independent, like that's all she needs. You know, she's very like, she requires very little. That's how she wants it. I know that when my brother first presented himself, they mentioned him to my birth mother. And she said, no, there's nothing I can do for him. I have no money.
Right.
Like as if that's what he was there for, and not wanting to meet the person who gave birth to him.
Yeah.
She just brushed it off. So she largely denies we exist, but she also knows.
Yeah.
Like she would never be like, oh no, that didn't happen. Like she knows. And she evidently complains a lot about her C-section scar, and also would see little boys on the street and gush over them and talk about them for days. So it was an interesting thing where we decided to go, we knew where she lived, and we decided to go try to get a look at her, thinking, you know, maybe she would talk to us. Maybe she would, you know, be drawn to my brothers because she likes talking to men, you know. And I was like, I think that if she saw me, I kind of knew in my heart, if she saw me, she would like, maybe not consciously be like, has to be my daughter. Because I should add, I look a lot like her. It's like not identical, but it's a strong resemblance.
Yeah.
It's definitely very similar eyes, very similar hair, body. I kind of knew I was afraid for myself a little bit, and I didn't want to startle her. I just wanted to pretend we were strangers who happened to be where she was, you know, like part of the furniture, and hope that she comes up and talks to us. We go to her apartment complex. My brother befriends this man. I don't know how he had the instinct to approach this particular man, but it turns out this man is her friend, and he told us her whole routine. So we kind of twice about put ourselves in her line or in her path and said hello to her. And it was bright out. We were outside, but her voice sounds exactly like my voice. And it's crazy because she's 75, like that a voice doesn't age, or even the concept of having a voice that sounds like someone else's voice. I've just never realized that. You know what I mean? That a voice, you know, could sound like someone else. And I saw her, and initially I couldn't really see her face, but I saw like how tiny she was. You know, I always pictured her like bigger for some reason. I don't know. She was so petite and like little. Then her face turned toward mine, and it was just like the same shapes and the same teeth and the same color eyes and the same mannerisms. Like she was trying to be so polite. She was like, hello. And I was like, oh my goodness.
Wow.
And my brothers too, like they couldn't really hold it in. Like one of them said out loud, like in front of her, oh my God, it's you, Casey. They were like, it's you. And then, it didn't end that well. It didn't end that well. This man encouraged us. He was like, you know what? She always has people going over to her apartment. She leaves her door open. She loves when people come by. So we were out in the parking lot. She went up to her apartment, and we were with this man. And he said, hey, I want you to meet my friends. And she's like, maybe later, bye. So she was avoiding us. But I never in a million years thought we would actually try to meet her. But in the moment, I was like addicted to the dopamine of seeing her. It was just, it was such a rush. And I was only getting little glimpses. And I wanted to see her face on, and I wanted to hear her say more. And it's just so sad because I don't think I would do this now remotely. But he said, go. Like, I really, you know, she's being weird right now, but just try it. Like, people come in. One guy like went in and used her bathroom, and she didn't even care and left. I was like, well, if it's like that, I was like, if it's really like that, you know, so we knocked, and she said, hello, who is it? And we said, oh, hi, you know, we're his, not going to say his name, friends from downstairs. And she was like, no, thank you. You know, she kind of has like a transatlantic accent. No, thank you. And we said, oh, okay. And she goes, you should never knock on a stranger's door. And it was literally like she was reprimanding us. So in that moment, I knew she kind of knew who we were. And I said her name. I said, oh, hi, I'm so sorry. You're right? And she goes, and she started shouting to go away. So we ran, obviously. We just left. And I personally felt bad if I'd rattled her, but I felt really happy that she said that because it was so final, you know? And I didn't have to wonder like, oh, would she want to talk to us? Because she clearly didn't. And I think my brothers and I responded to it in different ways. I think we all went out for lunch. We got Bloody Marys. We had cheeseburgers. We were like trying to kind of reenact what happened, talk about her face, just all kind of doing recon. I think there were varying degrees of sadness. I was really happy we saw her at all. I didn't know we would be able to, the fact that my brother zeroed in on the right guy who tipped us off to where she was, what she died.
Right, the odds are actually fairly low for what your plan was.
It was
that you would
a large apartment complex.
Yeah.
Frankly, she had a ski cap on.
Right.
So I never would have known it was her. Or I would have had a sneaking suspicion, but it's not like I saw my hair, she had short hair with a ski cap. So it could have been another woman. So we just got lucky and I was grateful for that. I think the days of being sad about her are behind me, but I was really, I grieved for the person she used to be. I could tell by speaking to her friends and family that they considered it a tragedy. I know that my late biological grandma suffered a lot. This was a woman, it was her daughter. And but she never gave up on her. She never was ashamed. But from what I understand by talking to family and friends, she was devastated that she gave away these 3 children. So I think just knowing I was given away in that manner and that it's just a sad tragedy. And I grew up in such a happy life. So knowing those 2 things exist within me, this loving, supportive family for whom I'm so wanted, I'm so wanted, so doted upon, fawned over almost. My biological extended family, frankly, it's just this tragedy. So it's definitely an interesting thing. Any adoptee has multiple dimensions within them. You have 2 sets of parents, and that's the reality. Even if you don't know the father, which a lot of people like me don't, it's just a needle in the haystack situation. I think it's you're this person and you have multiple family trees.
What is family to you?
I think growing up, I never believed that blood was thicker than water because I saw a lot of people who didn't have close relationships with their families, and I was so close to mine. So I don't necessarily believe that. I think family is just love and home. But with my brothers, for instance, they are very close family to me now, but there's so much they missed out on. There are things that my friends know about me that they don't. And we could try to catch up, but they didn't live it with me. And I never saw them as kids. For me, family is kind of a messy, complicated thing. It's not messy in terms of my 2 parents. I think they just love me unconditionally. And I really lucked out in that regard. I think with my kids, I'm really lucky that I just love them and it's not complicated. And God willing, I hope it's not a complicated thing for them, but now the reality is I have, multiple families, and it's with my brothers, we kind of signed on for unconditional love. I don't think that was guaranteed at all. We discussed, people who find genetic family, it doesn't mean it's going to mean love. It's just not like that, whether it be 23andMe or a biological mother or father that doesn't want anything to do with you. I think just because you are someone's blood doesn't mean it's a different iteration of family. There's definitely something shared there, of course, and it's empowering to know who you come from. But I think with my brothers, it's been a conscious choice, okay, we're not just DNA casual siblings, we're in this together.
Right. And your kids, and if they have kids, get to actually live that for their entire lives.
Exactly.
To them, those people will all they'll be used to that. That will be family.
And my daughter, my son, my brothers came in later. So now he knows what it means to be adopted, and he's making sense of it. Because he's who are these men that just popped out of the sky, and these cousins that, he's they're cool, but where'd they come from? Whereas my daughter was when she was born, I already had my oldest brother.
Yeah.
And then 6 months later, I got my new brother, so she only knows them as being there.
Thanks for tuning in. Please consider subscribing to Identified wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode. We're on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all other major streaming platforms. And be sure to explore identifiedpod.com, the place to gain a better understanding of family. Our executive producer is Kieron Banerji, and the show is produced by Palm Tree Island. The music for Identified is by Noella and Patricia Brennan. I'm Nabil Ayers. Thanks for tuning in.